The regular notice requirement of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act has been complied with, that adequate advance notice of this meeting was given at least 48 hours in advance. On June 20th and 21st, notice was mailed to the Courier Post in the Aldea. Notice was also posted on the bulletin board located by the reception desk at the central office and all school building bulletin boards within the district. Roll call, please.
Good evening, Ms. Teresa Atwood, Ms. Catherine Blackshear.
Here.
Mr. Jose Brito Bueno.
Here.
Ms. Dorothy Burley. Mr. Joshua Cole.
Here.
Ms. Taisha Manier. Mr. Wasim Mohammed.
Here.
Ms. Felicia Reyes Morton. And Ms. Martha Wilson.
Present. At this time, I would ask you to stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
To the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now turn the meeting over to our business administrator.
The board will now go into closed session to discuss matters of personnel, real estate, and attorney-client privilege. At this time, I call for a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
May I have a second motion? Second. A motion to go into closed session was made by Mr. Wasim Mohammed, and second motion was made by Ms. Dart Burley. At this time, the board will go into closed session for a minute of 30 minutes. Roll call, please. Ms. Teresa Atwood. Ms. Catherine Blackshear.
Yes.
Mr. Jose Brito Bueno.
Yes.
Ms. Dorothy Burley. Yes. Mr. Joshua Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Taisha Manier. Mr. Wasim Mohammed.
Yes.
Ms. Felicia Reyes Morton. And Ms. Martha Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
The board will be back at 6:20.
At this time, I call for a motion to come out of closed session.
Motion to come out of close. Oh, second.
I'm sorry. Second.
Second.
Roll call. Ms. Catherine Blackshear.
Yes.
Mr. Jose Brito Bueno.
Yes.
Ms. Dorothy Burley. Mr. Joshua Cole. Mr. Wasim Mohammed.
Yes.
Ms. Felicia Reyes Morton.
Yes.
And Ms. Martha Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will now turn the meeting over to our superintendent, Payman Rahanafer.
All right, so I'm going to come down to give the superintendent's presentation. Would ask our board members and student board members to go ahead and take a seat. Okay, good evening, everybody. So we have not yet sworn in all of our student board representatives, so we're going to start the meeting by doing that, and I'm going to invite up our general counsel to help lead the swearing in.
Raise your right hand. Loud voice, repeat after me. I, Joshua Sims,
I, Joshua Sims, affirm that
I possess the qualifications
I possess the qualifications
for the office of
Student Board Representative
of the Camden City School District,
of the Camden City School District,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties
of that office
according to
the best of my ability.
the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
And in case you haven't heard, Josh Sims will be in the Cornell University class of 2021. All right. So have a number of district updates for you all here, and we'll close out as we always do with some highlights. So I wanted to share with you all some findings from Camden enrollment. So we have gone about an informal audit, if you will, of last year's enrollment system, given it was the first year of implementation. We did a focus group and survey of roughly 520 families who participated in Camden enrollment, and just wanted to share out, again, some of these findings. So as far as how did Camden let me start here. As far as the way that Camden enrollment was structured, there was a main round and an after round. And so the main round was open from January 5th to March 1st last year. And during that time period, all families had kind of fair shot at all available seats at Camden schools. And so there was after the main round, there was an after round. And so the after round was for any family that may have missed the deadline or wanted an alternative school for their student. And so for the after round, all available seats were allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. So this was strictly given to parents and students who got in line first during the after round. When you look at the overall numbers, 4,000 unique students applied in Camden enrollment. And and I know not everyone can see these numbers in the back of the room or maybe even in front of the room, but this is by grade level. And as you can see, kindergarten and ninth grade was where we saw the most participation. And that makes sense because kindergarten is where obviously school begins, and ninth grade is a transition grade for a lot of our students that are leaving family schools into high school. And so in the in-between grades, there was some movement of students, but the majority, or I should say the plurality of students, roughly 40% of the students were made up of applicants were in kindergarten and ninth grade. 74% of those who applied were matched to a school. And so that means that roughly a quarter of the students did not receive a match and then had to figure out the next option for their child. As you all know, every student was guaranteed a seat in their neighborhood school. So that was always a fallback for all students, or they could look at other schools that had available seats. And I think what's important to point out here is that this is basically a function of how many schools families listed on their application. So those who put 4 schools or more had almost 100% match rate. I know you can't see those numbers very clearly, but it's a little bit under 100%. Those who put only 1 school had a far lower match rate. And so that makes sense given that there are fewer seats available at certain schools that are in high demand, like let's say Caddo School, or certainly like Creative Arts. And so again, this kind of comes down to families who put more schools down had a higher likelihood of getting in. There were 83% of main round participants matched versus 64% of after round. So just to close this out, in terms of the key results and what we heard in the survey, or heard from families and saw in the survey, was that families, for the most part, believe that the new system was fair, that it reduced paperwork and made their life easier to go from 17 applications down to 1 application. 65% of surveyed parents said they were satisfied with their child's placement, which you can certainly look at both ways there. The majority of families felt good about their child's match, but a third of our families still don't. And this is, of course, for all schools, not just district schools, but for charter and Renaissance schools as well. So we will certainly take into account the feedback we're hearing directly from families on this survey and in the focus groups as we launch the second year of Camden enrollment. So I just want to share that with you as we get closer to launching year 2 of Camden enrollment. So on that note, I wanted to, and this was a follow-up from our last board meeting, a couple speakers had asked about current and projected enrollment. So good segue into that quick update for you all. So again, I know that the numbers are a little bit hard to see here, but right now in the 2016-17 school year, you have roughly 15,000 students across all school types, with the green bar here representing charters, the blue bar Renaissance schools, and the, I guess, orange-ish bar there representing the district. So the district right now is roughly 47% of students that are being served right now across those 3 school types. And for next year, we would expect a modest shift in the same direction that we've seen for the last several years now in Camden. So that projection implies roughly 800 to 1,000 students fewer in traditional district schools. That's being driven by increase in Renaissance schools and a slight increase in charter schools as well. So these projections are based on historical trends and approved charter and Renaissance growth numbers. And so as we get closer to our March budget presentation, so certainly for next month's presentation in February, we'll give you latest numbers if there are any, but that is kind of the headline trends right now that we see. All right, so we're going to spend the bulk of our time during this presentation talking about Camden High School, and we're joined by a number of our school principals who I'm going to welcome up here in a moment to also speak. So I think a lot of the people seated in this room today are paying close attention to the Camden High reconstruction process and the corresponding temporary space conversation. A number of you all may actually be seated on one of our committees who we've asked to make recommendations and help guide decisions. And so for everyone in this room who's involved in ways big and small, let me first begin by saying thank you for the time you've invested because as you've, I'm sure, come to discover, as I have, this is a very, very complicated decision that requires us to gain many different stakeholders' perspectives here. So just to jump in, the Camden High committees, so 3 different committees, each comprised of 12 individuals spanning from students to district teachers to community members to parents and grandparents. And we've now met all together twice to get feedback on the temporary facility. And I mentioned at the last board meeting that there were 3 options that we were most actively pursuing. So option 1 was to move Camden High School into the Hatch building, where it would share the building with the Big Picture Learning Academy, which has 350 students in grades 6 to 12. Option 2 was to move Camden High School to Forest Hill and have Forest Hill move into the Hatch building and share the space with Big Picture Learning Academy. Option 3 was to utilize the Rig Center, which is where Big Picture was last year, as I'm sure you remember, previously then called Med East. And that option, unfortunately, wouldn't have allowed us to keep all the students together. Would have required potentially one academy going into Riggs and then the other academy going into one of the other aforementioned buildings. When we sat down with students at Camden High, and I've now done 2 rounds of conversations with literally every student in the building, and when we sat down with the staff at Camden High and community members, what became very, very clear is there were 2 factors that stood out. The first was that we wanted to keep all the students together, and the second was that we wanted to keep the school in Parkside. And that's really important to call out because new construction, reconstruction happens throughout the state, throughout the country, and if you look at other districts, they don't always make that decision to keep the school together. So Trent, for example, they've dispersed the students across a number of different buildings, and that's certainly happened in other parts of New Jersey as they've gone through similar processes. And so we certainly could have said, we'll spread the Camden High students into Woodrow, into Brim, into Big Picture, so on and so forth. But we didn't want to do that because ultimately, I believe, as I'm sure you believe, a school is about the relationship between students and the staff, and also the students amongst themselves, and being with their peers from start to finish. And so we wanted to honor that commitment. And what that means is that we have very few spaces where we can keep the entire school together. If we were to, again, utilize more buildings and spread the students apart, that would be a lot easier, and we wouldn't be presented with, these options that clearly come with certain complications. So, having said all of that, initially the committees were very much in favor of Hatch as the destination for Camden High School, and that the space there could work. So Hatch has 39 full-size classrooms, and those 39 classrooms would have to be shared across 2 organizations. We then took that feedback from the committees and we sat down with our staff, namely our principals, who I'm going to invite up here in just a minute. And when we sat down with educators and the principals, namely, representing their school's needs, we found out that clearly this is even more complicated. And so with Hatch specifically, I mean, I think everyone here knows it's the first year Big Picture has moved in. So there's that conundrum in and of itself that they just got settled. But probably more importantly, Big Picture has a unique model that is very different from a Camden High School large comprehensive model. They have different bell schedules, they have different classroom needs, and it would have been very, very difficult to cohabitate. And so we then pulled back and reassessed, and we took a harder look at Forest Hill. Forest Hill, if you take into account the large rooms that can be divided, has 32 full-size classrooms. So Forest Hill would actually allow Camden High School to have more space and be there not sharing with another school. Is that a perfect outcome? Is that perfect for the Forest Hill School and staff and students? Absolutely not. I'll be the first to tell you that. That presents unique challenges to the Forest Hill community, just as Hatch would have presented unique challenges to the Big Picture Learning Academy community. At the end of the day, we are moving forward with this recommendation to move into Forest Hill, given the information at our disposal, given a very, very, very careful examination of the benefits and the drawbacks to each and every building in Parkside. And so on that note, let me welcome up all four principals that will be leading this process over the next few weeks and months to share some of their insights with you, because we've had many rounds of conversations together. I want to give a shout out to Anna Chirac, who oversees our high schools, who's been facilitating much of this dialogue, along with Brendan Lowe and Kevin Schaefer from our team. So let's kick things off with Principal Tim Jenkins from Big Picture Learning Academy. As again, he's been with us seated at the table. I'd also like to welcome up Alex Jones from Camden High School, Scott Shanklin from Camden High School, and David Corvi from Forest Hill. So give them all a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to take time to first thank the superintendent and the board for allowing us to speak and hear our voices, and just to also iterate that amongst all of the options that we were presented with, I do feel like the superintendent did a great job of capturing what our school community believed was the best option. There aren't many people who really truly understand how Big Picture Learning Academy works, how the school flows and all of the different structures. And so honestly speaking, it would have been very, very difficult and honestly almost impossible to operate our school the way it's supposed to if Camden High School was sort of placed in, because we have two completely different everything, bell schedules, school structures. It would have been really, the environment wouldn't have been good for us nor for Camden High students. So of the options that were presented to us, we really did feel like the superintendent and school support team landed in the best possible position. It's not ideal for anyone. We understand that there will be growing pains, but we are honestly committed to making it work. Thank you, and I'll take any questions offline at another time.
Thanks, Tim. Let me now ask up Principal Corvi, and before he speaks, I just want to acknowledge that his school will be significantly impacted, as you can imagine, because they're we're asking them to move out of their building and to allow us to use their building for 4 to 5 years. And he's been very clear about the concerns they have and how this will present certain challenges. Appreciate all the input he's provided and willingness to support through what is clearly an imperfect setup, but one that we believe will ultimately be in the best interest of the Camden High students and the Parkside community. So let me welcome him up, and then we'll ask the Camden High principals to speak.
Thank you. Good evening. I think Superintendent Rohanafard did a good job at summing that up. I said last week, I'm battling this struggle between kind of being objective and seeing the long-term picture of the Parkside community with the new Camden High, which is definitely needed, to the immediate personal emotions that I have about being the leader of Forest Hill and being there for 4 years, and the relationships that I've built with the families and the students, and the progress that we've made. is it the best option? It's the best of the kind of the worst scenarios that we have here. What we've talked about with this Forest Hill community is just being provided the time and the space to voice a little bit of our concerns. So earlier this evening, I presented the superintendent with some letters from our students. We do have some parent representatives here, so I am asking, later this evening that they are heard, so at least they have a stage and a place to voice their concerns and ask questions about what the impact of this is. On the other side, for Forest Hill students to be in close proximity with and work with the students at Big Picture Learning, I think that's great. I think it presents a lot of opportunity. Some things that Principal Jenkins is doing with the students of the school will be a good experience for our students. At the same time, being the elementary school in the Parkside community, we do have also some concerns in terms of like just the long-term impact that it has on Forest Hill. But at the end of the day, Camden High is definitely in need of a new facility. It will benefit the Parkside community. It will impact and benefit the students as they go to Camden High. So we're here. We're going to work to see this transition through. And do what's in the best interest for the Forest Hill community to try to stay together as one as well, so that when the renovations are made to Forest Hill and we can come back in several years, we can continue with the progress that we're making. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corvi. Let me ask up Mr. Shanklin and then Mr. Jones from Camden High School.
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, everyone. We all understand that moving is difficult. However, everybody has moved once or twice in their life in the building. So we understand how difficult that is and how emotionally you get tied to one place and then you got to move to another place. And I have that emotional tied as I've been a graduate of Camden High School, class of '89 myself, and I understand the storied history and everything behind the Castle Hill. But it's time for a change, and it's time to give our students a 21st century school. So with that being said, I know that this move is going to be, and this displacement of our students is going to be very difficult. I understand that for the young ones as well as the older ones that are going through this transition. But that's the short term. But the long term is that you will have a school that's sitting on top of the hill that will be one of the best in the state, if not the best in the state, once it's finished. So I understand the short term, it will hurt for a minute, but the long term is having a beacon in your city, having a beacon in the city where you can say, that's my high school. I had one of the best high schools in the state or in the country, state of the art, that they can go to and have pride in and bring that Panther pride back to Camden High School. The options that were there, they were set forth between us, and the options were, and I did tour the building myself. Is there some things that need to be updated for Forest Hill? Yes, but when the students from Forest Hill come back, they'll have a better facility. The students at Hatch will benefit because they'll be able to work, the students at Big Picture Learning will be able to work and have conjunctions with the Forest Hill students, so they'll have those bonds and those ties together. And then at the end of the rainbow, it will be that beautiful beacon that we will call Camden High School once again. Also, just as we talk to our students about the move, they always said one thing: we want to be one high. We want to be one Camden High School. I don't want to be over here and then my classmates are over here, and how are we going to move this, that, and forth? We all want to be together, and that's been the overarching theme. They always said to us, we want to be together. So Forest Hill was out of all the choices, was the best choice for those students to be accommodated as being together. Will it be a little bit difficult with our programming? Yes, because our programming does not match with Big Picture Learning. And we also have to think about graduation and having enough space, classroom space, for those students to complete their courses to graduate on time. So we wouldn't bump into their time, because they have to have their seniors and things complete their courses so they can graduate on time. And our overarching goal is that everybody graduates on time. So using the Forest Hill facility, we'll be able to still do our programming and get our students and accommodated so that they can graduate on time, as well as Big Picture Learning and all the other schools moving forward. So with that being said, that was one of the best choices, and I just want to say to you guys, it's going to hurt a little bit in the beginning, but at the end, that school is going to be a beautiful beacon for the entire city. So thank you.
So the only point I'll raise and just sort of reiterate what Mr. Shanklin has already said, our primary concern, knowing that we will have this transition time, is having the opportunity to keep our students together and remain in the Parkside area. And this option does that for us. We're allowed to stay one Camden High School. We are still in the Parkside area. We're as close to Camden High School as we can be without remaining in our traditional space. So for our students, the look and feel of coming to Camden High School will be the same. And what is of utmost importance to us in this single space together as one school is it helps us keep our identity as the High. So we're looking forward to this transition and being together at Forest Hill and having the light at the end of the tunnel with our brand new facility down the road.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. So let me just round out with a few other relevant updates. And you heard a little bit about this already from the principal's comments. So we are going to, and I shared this actually with the Forest Hill staff earlier today and the Camden High staff. In Hatch, we're going to make sure that the space properly accommodates young people and that there is separate autonomous space in that building being utilized with a separate entrance for the young kids. And so without question, one of the concerns that has come up are for parents of elementary school students as they enter a building that also has older students in it. And so we want to be very, very mindful of that concern, and we're able to address this in part by creating, again, a separate entrance and making sure that it's a part of the building that is separate and apart from the Big Picture Learning Academy. We're also going to invest in the building to accommodate that autonomous space. So another example is we're going to create a separate cafeteria for Forest Hill while they're inside of that building. So in the Forest Hill facility itself, as the older students move in, as you heard from at least one of the principals, we toured the building. A number of our board members and community members also joined us for this because the initial concern a lot of people share is that, well, Forest Hill's too small and it's for younger students. And when you spend a little bit of time in the building, you'll see that the classrooms are actually pretty spacious and it's doable. And so that's not to say there aren't, again, some drawbacks. So the hallways are pretty narrow, and I think will create some challenges with larger, older students. Bathrooms were another question that came up because bathrooms for younger students may not be suitable for older students. The hallway bathrooms are actually adequately sized for older students. There are some classroom bathrooms, however, that are more designed for younger kids, and so we have to kind of figure out how we address that, but at least we have the hallway bathrooms. So there's certainly a lot more I could say about this decision to move forward with what is effectively a near final proposal for Camden High to move into Forest Hill and for Forest Hill to move to the Hatch building. But I just want you all to know that our team is going to be coordinating very, very closely with the parents, with the staff. We're going to sit down and have some in-depth conversation with, again, staff and parents to work through any and all questions that come up, and undoubtedly there will be more questions and issues that are brought to our attention. But it is our commitment to ensure that every single one of these students across all three schools has a smooth transition and has a successful 4 to 5 years as the high is being reconstructed. All right. So I guess the last quick thing, in terms of decisions that are to come, we are still determining how we are going to structure career and technical education. Some of the specialized, what we call the hard CTE classes at Camden High School, like auto body and electrical, you can't just move that to a temporary facility. It's not possible to just invest that money for a temporary amount of time. And so our current thinking is that we would allow those students to utilize the Woodrow Wilson Career and Technical Education courses. So we're just trying to finalize those details. The second item is with the Parent Link program, the daycare for Camden High School. We are aiming to situate the daycare in ECDC. We have not yet finalized that decision, as there's a number of kind of code and compliance related questions that we've got to first resolve, but that is the direction it is trending, to move the daycare to ECDC, which obviously would provide very good access for the students who are at Forest Hill. And then the location of Camden High indoor sports. The Office of the Mayor, along with our team, is reaching out to a number of different organizations who have access to larger gym spaces. So Rutgers University and the Kroc Center are two options that I believe we've already reached out to both organizations. The mayor's already called the chancellor of Rutgers. So more details there to be shared. All right, very quickly, water quality. I just want to give you all the regular updates here as they come in. So the testing is now complete, and our team is just finalizing and gathering the data. So we successfully tested approximately 2,100 outlets across all of our district schools. This testing took about 4 to 5 weeks in total, including some time over the holidays and weekends. And so we tested over a period of weeks due to the high volume of outlets in our larger schools. So as soon as the results are prepared, we're going to certainly post them publicly on our website, and we'll talk about those results here at our board meeting. And we anticipate that the lab will share these results by the end of February and plan to release those results by early March. So more to come there, but I just want to let you all know that the actual testing being inside of our school buildings has been complete. So I mentioned ParentLink earlier. I want to bring it back to ParentLink for just a very quick moment. At our November board meeting, we heard from a former district employee about busing being provided to the students who are utilizing the daycare. And so I just wanted to give you the quick update, which is that Eddie Ortiz, one of our district drivers, recently passed his examination to receive his commercial driving license, his CDL. And so beginning in early February, the school-based youth services students will be transported by the district bus. So I know that question came up at that board meeting, so I just wanted to share out that's the latest there. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Lastly, before we get into district highlights, so some of you all may have seen there was a story out in Philly Voice last night, this morning, about our central office. For those of you that have been attending our board meetings regularly, this certainly is no surprise about the fact that we have put out our building to be bid on. We've been talking about doing this for a very long time now. So I just wanted to let you all know that bids are due on January the 27th, and we're exploring an outright sale. And also a sale and lease back, if that's also an option on the table, with a bid threshold of $6.7 million. And so that's what the building was appraised at. And so that is now out publicly, and we will let you all know once the process is completed where we've landed. All right, district highlights. Some of you all may have seen on Good Day Philadelphia, Brim Medical Arts scholars on the Good Day show, where they read excerpts from Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. So really, really proud of our students for that accomplishment. The Hill Family Center for College Access on Rutgers campus, just want to let you all know that they are offering Camden students and families with assistance on college applications, filling out FAFSA, EOF forms, and any other general college-related questions. So in case you're not aware, the center is located right on the Rutgers campus on 67 Penn Street. Three Kings Day are just some pictures from this year's Three Kings Day celebration at the Dudley School, which I believe has been hosting an annual celebration for 10 plus years, maybe even longer. So just want to give a shout out to our bilingual staff and the school staff at Dudley and the many others who came together to throw the event this year. This is just a highlight in the NJEA monthly newsletter. The community school partnership was highlighted, and in case you didn't know, there are 5 district schools that have partnered with the CEA and the NJEA to create this partnership community school model. And so those 5 schools are Charles E. Brim Medical, Wiggins, Dudley, Yorkshire, and Veterans. And just want to say thank you to Mr. Farmer and to NJEA for supporting this partnership. Woodrow Wilson High School's French class scholars are raising money to go to Paris. So I just wanted to let you all know that. If you're interested in supporting, there's a GoFundMe campaign available online. Happy to share the specifics with you. The students and the staff there had asked us to help get the word out, and so we're doing our part. Would obviously be really exciting if we were able to deliver this for them. And we will close out with retirement notices on stage. Thank you all very much.
I'd like to read the names of the individuals that are retiring, and I'd like to say thank you for your years of service. Thank you for being of support to our families and our youth in the district. These years are not easy to come by. So Dana Baker, 28 years. Calvin Crow, 18 years. Kathy Lindsay, 30 years. Cynthia Pekarik, 24 years. Renee Scott, 25 years. Ida Townsend, 29 years. Tracy Truitt, 36 years. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn the meeting over to our interim business administrator, Karen Willis, to read out the business office agenda items.
At this time, I'm going to ask the board and the superintendent to review and approve the bill list, resolution number 1 through 9, and the financial report.
All right. So in accordance with the powers vested in the State District Superintendent under Title 18A, I hereby approve today's superintendent's agenda items and business office agenda items. Happy to take any other comments or questions based on the presentation. Otherwise, we'll pass it over to our general counsel to kick off public commentary. Oh, I'm so sorry, yeah. We're going to go to the students before we do public commentary. Ms. Wilson, does that sound good?
That's fine.
All right,
Thank you.
so apologies again. Let's now go ahead and turn over to our student board representatives.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, board members and audience. My name is Ibn Coleman. I'm from Biomedical Arts, one of the student reps. Our strength areas inside BRIM is that there's always someone you can go to, and you have a lot of teacher and staff support. Another improvement we have seen is the cameras installed inside our hallways. Ever since the school opened, there was not cameras in the hallways or the cafeterias to monitor any of the activity. Our weaknesses is the loss of a science teacher, so we want another science teacher so it can be like the years before where there were 4 science teachers to serve 200 students. This will allow for us to have an AP science track. Another concern is the math lab and geometry teacher for the freshmen and sophomores. They're without one, but we've been working with the superintendent and our principal to have that be fixed. And there's 2 interviews tomorrow and another interview the following day. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Esmeralda Pena, and I'm also a student board representative for Biomedical Arts. So something that's been exciting for us was that the student ran a blood drive, and we were able to save up to, I think, 15 lives. I was able to participate, and it was very encouraging for the students and for the staff to all join together for a great cause. And all the students have been very happy with the school store that we have in place in our school. It allows us to get snacks and school supplies that we may need and we may not have at home. I'm looking forward to working with the superintendent to find a female security guard for our school because we have a 3-to-1 ratio of boys to girls, and it will reduce the waiting line in the morning for the girls, and it will give students the opportunity to leave the cafeteria during lunch and attend the library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tiana King. I currently attend Camden High School. I'm a board representative for the main building. I just want to start by saying thank you to the superintendent for clearing the questions and concerns about where are we going to be and everything, the new building.
You're all right.
I also want to, oh my God, I can't do this. Okay. I just want to say that it's really frustrating for me when I'm in my chemistry class or my College of Central math class and we do work and I cannot take the work home because it be in the books, and we're not allowed to take the books home because there's not enough books for most of the people to take the books home. So it's just very frustrating that I can't take the books home and get my work done at home. God, I just want to say that I have seen some improvement. I have seen like new teachers, like now we have a chemistry teacher and things are better.
Thank you.
My name is Kyla Evans. I'm from Camden High, but I'm part of the D building. My only concern currently is our technology. Most of the classes I take, I have to either do on the computer or it requires computer work. And most of the computers in our school do not work or are outdated or there isn't enough. That is my only concern.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joshua Sims. As you saw before, I just got sworn in today. I'm a returning. Thank you. I'm a returning board member, and the energy in here feels really weird. It's been a lot of bad that's been said, so I'm gonna focus on some good things. If you don't mind, focus on some good things. Last year when I was a board rep, I really wanted the district to focus on giving us more materials so that we can aspire to get into these better schools. So I was like, yo man, we need more SAT prep and this and that, dual enrollment. And I'm thankful to say that we finally seen some progress. Today, the junior class took their first placement test to see what classes they will take for their SAT support classes. So that's a good thing. Hopefully soon, like I said, we got some things we can get further. Hopefully we can start catching it earlier, make freshmen take that test and then have classes for them. We could do it throughout their whole high school career, building up to their junior year. Because the juniors got to take it this year. So, we still got some steps to go. Dual enrollment, that's getting better, is growing. And that's a good thing because with dual enrollment, you have access to different classes that your school might not be able to provide. Like one problem, Ivy League schools require 3 years of a foreign language. A lot of like Columbia and Harvard and things like that, which means a lot of people in the inner cities just won't be accepted to those schools. Dual enrollment gives children access to extra classes like that. And I'm also thankful to say it's been confirmed that next year, Creative Arts, for the first time in history, will be able to offer 3 years of a foreign language, and that's a hand clap. Like I said, we've made some improvements. We're getting closer and closer to the desired goal, and we still got some steps to go, but it is getting closer to a district where we have everything we need to go to those top-notch schools. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Siani Davis, a junior here at Creative Arts Morgan Village Academy, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we are currently working on reforming our attendance system so that students are held accountable for coming to school on time, and for the students that are here and present, that they get represented the way that they are when they're here on time.
So thank you, all students, for sharing your concerns. We're really happy to hear that there's been improvements in some of the areas you've brought to us, and it's been so helpful to have your perspective to make sure that we're addressing all of your needs. I heard the concern about chemistry materials and technology, and just want to call out that in transitioning to a digital curriculum for chemistry, we are working through those needs, and I'll stop by to make sure that you have what you need in your classes and you're able to take what you need home. And we're going to continue to look into technology to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that you have those resources. But we'll continue to work together. So thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
I'd just like to, yes. I would just like to take the opportunity to bring your attention to agenda page 41, which is Cream Family School. And it goes to page 45. I'd just like to point out that our FOC over at Cream Family School, I'm looking at the way that they have set up utilizing their funding to help the students and the parents in that school. And because of the type of meetings that they have put together, they have put together a well-rounded programs for the teachers and for the students and the parents. And it's going from not only dealing with things educationally, but for life skills. And when we see them spend the money through Title I that way, this is the way this should be done. So I'd just like to commend the FOC over at Cream Family School. Ms. Felicia Reyes-Morton.
Actually, I'm going to let Cole, and then, does anybody else need something to say before I go, or?
Minister Wasim.
Okay, so, go ahead, Cole.
Thank you for the time. Just have a couple of comments regarding the superintendent's report. One thing is around technology. I see a lot of money being spent in training. I think we should have a lot of funding going towards training. The staff need to be trained. But time and time again, we come to these meetings and the issues comes around technology and that we don't have enough of it in our schools. I guess my question is it the fact that we don't have enough money to get more laptops, more computers in our classrooms? Is that the reason why we're not moving fairly quickly in that area? And another thing is that in your report you talked about why parents choose certain high-ranking schools, and one is because they have strong academics. And Joshua had already explained that his school is actually moving forward and actually building up a strong academic program. What I think that what we need to see is more of that in Camden High and Woodrow Wilson. We don't see enough students saying that, coming out and saying that we have strong academics in our school. So if we can get somehow find the way to fund these schools, get computers in these schools, get textbooks in these schools. So we won't be hearing this time every month that we don't have enough textbooks, we don't have the computers, we don't have the supplies that we need. If we can find the funding for that, I think this will be a better school district, and we'll see students come back to our schools because they see that we do have strong academic program.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. So, Ms. Peckham, feel free to jump in here as well. But I mean, just to kind of give you my initial reactions. So, Camden High and Woodrow Wilson, if you look at the number of devices, laptops, desktops, tablets, for the number of students, we have more technology than our peer districts across the state. I talk to superintendents all the time. We're almost at a 1-to-1 ratio of student to device. And most districts are not at 1-to-1. Most every classroom in the district, not just Camden High and Woodrow Wilson, has a smart board. Not every classroom, most every classroom. That's not the case in the rest of the state of New Jersey. It's not the case in a lot of school districts. And that is driven in part by the fact that we are funded at $23,000 per pupil, and most other districts are significantly below that. So I understand that it feels a little paradoxical to hear that on the one hand, there's a lot of technology, on the other hand, there are a lot of problems. And so I want to call out a few things. One, when you have a lot of technology, you're always troubleshooting. So part of the challenge is because we have so many devices and so many smart boards and so many desktops that we're troubleshooting a lot. And so we've got to get better at that, and there's no denying that reality. The second thing is an aging building like Camden High and like Woodrow Wilson creates challenges because not all of your power strips are working and not the bandwidth for the internet is not as strong as it is in newer buildings like Creative Arts. And so when you have a new Camden High School, I think most of these concerns, to be frank with you, are going to go away. In terms of funding for the technology itself, I don't believe that that is actually insufficient. And I think that's a common misperception of Camden schools. When you walk in and you look at the classrooms, every time I visit, I see technology being utilized. I also often see some computers in the back of the room that haven't been working and a teacher is waiting far too long to get the computers fixed. So both things can be true. And I just want to kind of call out the reality is far more complex than often what we hear at a board meeting. Ms. McCombs, I don't know if you want to jump in here as well. Feel free.
No, I think that's definitely accurate, and we are actually in the process of making sure, so in most of our classrooms, we have smart boards that are operating, everything's in place, but as the superintendent said, and I won't be redundant, there are repairs that need to be made, but we've been working with the technology department to get those expedited, and many repairs have been made. So again, we're looking at also how we use our instructional technology in instructional ways so that it is very much strengthening that academic environment and building up our students to be the 21st century learners that they need to be. So it is a work in progress. There's highlights, things that are being fixed and repaired, but overall, things are working.
And I think the core of your question, by the way, was academics and instruction and what Josh commented on, and I should have actually led with this. All the programs that Josh mentioned are happening at every single one of our high schools. So all of those, like SAT prep, the access, like all of that is new. So much of it is driven by, they're no longer behind me, the student board representatives' input. So we've been listening to them and we've been responding to the very issues they've been bringing to our attention. And Josh especially has been pretty vocal. And if you know Josh, that's how he operates. And the dual enrollment program, the SAT access, the prep, that's happening in every single one of our high schools.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
You wanted to go last.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one more, oh, go ahead. Yeah, I can go last. Actually, I had a question in reference to that, Payman. Does the district currently have like an inventory system to show like when we first received the technology and where we are now as it relates to that? Because I know that also, there's different factors relating to technology and why we may not, as far as thefts are concerned and whatever the case may be, broken devices.
We do. In fact, it was this past summer where we did a very deep dive into updating our inventory and making sure we had a great count of all the devices. And so that's something that our IT team just recently did.
Okay, cool. And I wanted to say some comments about your presentation today. Thank you for the Camden enrollment update. It's been very exciting to see youth contemplating whether they're going to attend Camden County VOTEC or medical arts. And it's been also very exciting to see that for the kids who aren't, on social media or aren't out in the open, that parents are using the Camden enrollment system as a family activity on deciding, what's best for their child, not at the moment, but actually what's best for their child and their family based on being in their senior year and graduating and, and being into higher education. So, all those things have been made possible through the Camden enrollment program and the fact that, there's more opportunities for school choice. And it's also great to see that we're matching processes with policies to further and to further deliver policy itself, but to increase its chances of being more successful. So, thank you for that. I think the Camden enrollment team has done a tremendous job in their year. 4,000 families, right?
4,000 unique applications, right, yeah.
And word of mouth was just crazy, because you can just see the talk and chatter everywhere about the Camden enrollment. And, now that February 1st is approaching, and that's when the open enrollment is going to be taking place, you kind of start seeing, everybody rattle now and start to begin the process of, reminding everyone and kind of, it's an exciting process, and I'd like to thank the Camden enrollment team for that. I'd also like to thank you guys for the administration for the Camden High transition process. It's very comfortable with it, and it seemed like a lot of great things going on with the new school being rebuilt, and the transition of the students, not just at one school, but at the various Parkside locations, and as it affects the Parkside community. And I also think that, and I also like to thank the school leaders for continuing to drive the communications and the message through the school to our parents and our families and our youth. And I'm looking forward to it, and I know that next year, once we're in full blown, it's going to be a priority for the board to make sure that the youth and the families are getting all the services and support that they need during this transition period. And so that's going to be, exciting as well, I think. And so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Minister Wasim.
Yeah, Madam President, Vice President, thank you. I just wanted to just horsey back on some of the things that our Vice President said about your presentation when it pertains to Camden High School. I just want to thank you, as well as the mayor, for bringing in the professionals of the school leaders. I, too, was leaning towards, as we are part of the committee, towards Hatch, and our whole committee was pretty much convinced that Hatch was the best fit. But hearing from those professionals who came in, who spoke towards the needs of the children and their ability to educate our children, and them being right there on the ground with them, I mean, it swayed me immediately. And to have them come up to present it to the community, I think the community should feel better about that decision making now, because they heard from the school leaders, and I believe you guys also heard from a numerous amount of students at all of the academies there, and they spoke to their needs. So I want to thank you for swaying my opinion as well too. I appreciate that.
They swayed me as well.
Anyone else? Okay, we now turn the meeting over to Superintendent Rahab.
Well, we'll turn it over to our General Counsel, Brian Horsley, who will kick off public commentary.
Rules for public comment. The Camden City School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to be heard on the agenda items in this meeting. Each person who signed up to comment will have 3 minutes. An alarm will sound when your 3 minutes are up. You cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please remain at the podium and address all of your comments to the board president or the superintendent. Please conduct yourself in a respectful and courteous manner. For anyone whose comments or actions either harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. Also, if you curse, use vulgar language, or make personal attacks, we will provide you with a warning or end your comment time. We will not interrupt you during your 3 minutes of comments. Members of the audience should also not interrupt the speaker at the podium. If you have any questions, please ask your questions during your 3-minute comment period. After the public comment period is closed, the superintendent or his designee will address your questions to the extent provided by law. First speaker, Cassandra Dominguez.
My name is Cassandra Dominguez, and I am a 6th grade student at Sharp Elementary School. I'm here to, on behalf of Mr. Misi, our gym teacher, and I've heard that he was going to be removed from our physical education program, and I believe that Mr. Misi is a great teacher and that he should stay at Sharp Elementary School. He's very respected in our school, and he is like a father figure to many of our kids in school. He makes the school light up every time he walks down the hallways, and he makes learning fun for everybody. And I believe that he is a big influence and a great role model. He has taught us the importance of striving for excellence, dreaming big, and never settling for anything less than greatness. And I ask that you allow Mr. Misi to stay at Sharp because he cares about all of us as students and individuals. He's a great teacher, and the entire Sharp family will be happy to see him stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, last name Dickerson. I can't pronounce the first name, sorry. It's Tenenfig? Oh, Tenenfee Dickerson. Okay. Yes.
They don't know about time, so.
We're not keeping time.
Okay, thank you. It's a lot of babies that want to speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tenefee Dickerson, and I am a representative from Forest Hill Elementary School. I will now read my letter. Dear Camden Board of Education, I think what you're doing is very unfair, not just to Forest Hill, but to Camden High also. This year, I finally had the courage to ask my principal, can we have a student government? But now that might not happen because everybody will be thinking about this big move. Our 6th through 8th graders left Forest Hill to Big Picture Learning Academy because Forest Hill wasn't fit for high schoolers. But now they're turning it into a high school, so the 8th graders and the 6th graders and 7th graders could have stayed at Forest Hill. This year we got a lot of new things. We got new technology, we have new doors, and my favorite is our new playground. This is my last year at Forest Hill, but my little sisters, Akila and Fatima Dickerson, are still going to be going. I will be attending Creative Arts Morgan Village Academy, and I won't be able to be with my little sisters anymore. And if we have the move, they might go to Big Picture Learning Academy, and they might even get bullied, and I won't be there to stand up for my little sisters. One of my solutions that you can do is let Camden High go to Big Picture Learning Academy. It's a lot of space there that the Camden High could use. I really hope all of you change your minds.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Shania Robinson.
My name is Shania Robinson from Forest Hill, and dear Camden City Board members, I think this is not fair because our 6th through 8th graders were moved because Forest Hill isn't fit for high schoolers. We don't have no locker, we need a bigger gym, and we can't switch classes. This is not, we just moved the upper grades to Hatch. It would be no point to move the Camden High over here. Why do we have to suffer for them? Why can't they just go to Hatch and we stay here? Hatch got 2 extra floors that they don't use, and they can use them floors for the Camden High people. And
Next speaker, Anaya Bailey.
I think that Camden High shouldn't come to Forest Hill because our school is too small for high schoolers, and because it wouldn't be enough lockers. They won't be able to switch classes, and also they will need a bigger gym. Also, our 6th to 8th graders were moved because Forest Hill isn't fit for high schoolers. And if they move the whole Forest Hill, it would be too many problems with K to 12th graders mixed together. The high schoolers will be with the other high schoolers at Hatch, at Big Picture Learning Academy. because they are all high schoolers, so it's most likely to be less problems because they're older. And we have a lot of new school supplies like technology, new doors, playgrounds. We won't be able to use those things if we move. And this was not our fault, so why do we have to suffer and move? What will happen to Forest Hill when we leave? Will we be able to come back, or will it be changed to a different school? Also, if they didn't make the changes for our middle school kids, why did they do it now?
Our next speaker, Tracy Wilkins.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, board members.
Good
My name
evening.
is Tracy Wilkins. I am a 1986 South Jersey champion and part of a Camden High School first championship in the history of the women's program. Tonight, I want to know where were our athletes supposed to train for the future months and years to come during the construction process. Mr. Superintendent answered it sort of with the Rutgers and the Kroc Center, which are not definite. So the streets are not an option because female athletes, it's already dangerous enough just to walk the street. We definitely can't train on them. So it draws the question, do you even care about the history of Camden High School, past and present? I recently visited Camden High School and the condition of the memorabilia, some missing memorabilia, and there are no traces of the 1986 South Jersey Championship team inside of the gymnasium, which is very disappointing to me. I've been out of school 30 years. And are championship traditions even relevant anymore in Camden High sports, or will they be in 5 years when the new school is reconstructed? I come to you today asking you for a home for women's sports in the city of Camden, and I would very much like to be part of that. Also, on a health and nutrition aspect, programs for our athletes. I am currently employed as a cook at the Neighborhood Center in Camden, and I'm a graduate of the Respond cooking class, and I help prepare nutritious meals and healthy beverages 5 days a week to daycare children, seniors, the community, and after-school programs, and I feel like our citywide athletes deserve to train and eat healthy on a regular basis. Okay, thank you very much for your time. If I may, Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you.
Next speaker, is that Tracy Wilkins? Oh, John Isaiah Jackson.
My name is John Nader Jackson. I am from Forest Hill School. I am a representative for Forest Hill School of Camden. Dear Board of Camden Education, I am really upset about these changes to our school. One of the things I don't understand is that our 6th to 8th graders couldn't stay at Forest Hill because of all the things we don't have. We have limited lockers, and we have a really small gym, and we don't have enough room for the gym for a cafeteria, so we have a gym in the cafeteria. And there's not enough room for the high schoolers to switch classes from subject to subject. And since we are at Forest Hill, there's only about 200 to 300 students. Camden High has 300 to 400 students, and they won't be able to fit in all our classes. And we got all these new stuff, like we just got laptops, new doors, and a new playground from Hatch. And the thing is, I don't get is we just moved the playground from here, so we're just gonna have to go back and build and have a new playground there, because all the younger kids are gonna have to play on that. And I don't get is why since Camden High is one of the oldest high schools in Camden. It's just that this stuff could have been happened a little earlier, and that they're moving to Camden, to Forest Hill, and it's just that they're putting all this pressure on us because we gotta change schools and we gotta do all this different stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Next speaker, Nora Muhammad.
Good evening and Happy New Year. And I have to say I'm very honored to come behind such articulate and phenomenal young people. And I think we should all give them a well-deserved round of applause. As our young people demonstrated, they have the ability to express their concerns, to ask questions in a dignified and intelligent and civilized manner. And I think that they can be an example for us as we are to be an example for them. Obviously, these young people have the proper guidance and the training so that they can come and comport themselves appropriately. And I would suggest that we follow their example when we have to engage in public discourse, and to do so and continue to be a positive example and role model. Let our children know to hold those in leadership accountable for what they think that they should have, what they feel they need, but also to do so in a way that they can be heard and to be seen and to be taken seriously. And I just want to applaud those young people. They did a phenomenal job, and I ask the Board of Education here, as the watchmen and watchwomen who advocate for our young people, to do so and to hear what our people have to say here. And as community members, we will engage you in a civilized discourse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Kevin Belfort.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Belfort, and I would like to address the fact that my gym teacher is leaving. His name is Mr. Misi. He is a very strong role model for the young men in our school who don't have a father figure, and we've also recently lost one of our other father figures, known as Mr. Richardson. He worked in our science program, and without him, that leaves Mr. Misi to stand up as a bigger role model for the other young male students. And we also learned that he was moving to Sumner, and we'd only have him for 2 marking periods. But if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm not, that Sumner has a gym teacher so far named Mr. Ishmael, and Sumner also has less students than us, and we have about a 400 student rate as of right now. And if you were to take away him, that'd leave us only with Mr. Brenner. And Mr. Brenner, it'd be difficult to manage 400 students all by himself. And now that we have 7th grade, it also makes things a lot difficult.
Without a piece of paper.
Next speaker, Josie Ocasio.
Next position that opens up on our DTLR team, Kevin, I'm going to give you a call. All right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. My name is Josie Ocasio, and I'm a lifelong Camden resident and a parent advocate, leader and pal with Parents for Great Camden Schools. At PGCS, we work with families across the district and schools, all types, to ensure that the needs of all students are being met on a day-by-day basis. My goal is that one day we can confidently say that in the city of Camden School District, no child is left behind or neglected. We believe that our schools must perform at the high level because failure is not an option when it comes to our children. School plays a vital role in the building solid citizens and preparing scholars to compete for the high-paying jobs moving into our city. And nowhere is that work more important than with early childhood. Recently, I've been meeting with families attending ECDC, hearing the accomplishments students are achieving every day. While at ECDC, I also learned of the barriers parents are experiencing when seeking a seat for the youngest students. They're just not quality seats in the city of our youngest students. Tonight, I would like to ask the board what steps are being taken to expand the access of options around early childhood seats. I would like to offer a suggestion that we look at the land assembled under the School Development Association for the purpose over 2 blocks of prime real estate in the most valuable neighborhood, Coopers Point, now sits vacant, and while I understand a new school is out at a minimum and it could be sold and the funds used to add classrooms at ECDC and or Coopers Point early development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Kevin Waters.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, those young people, we can. It's a testament to parenting and the education that we have in our public schools. And as you know, I'm an advocate of public education, and that's where they got that from. So I applaud the public educators in the city of Camden. What's your position on 5 minutes? I went to another school board meeting, and they had 5 minutes for the citizens to speak. That's a pretty good, I think, position to take, but 5 minutes. I also, in being in that board meeting, I got a couple of looks at how other boards work. There was a will to make things happen. I heard you earlier, Mr. Hanifer, talk about vocational being added to Woodrow Wilson High School because of the demise of the high. Now, I hope that that's a comprehensive revitalization of our vocational component, because you know we need it. And as I was sitting in that board meeting, that other board meeting in the close district, they mentioned another way of doing and adding to their vocational complex. And as a matter of fact, they mentioned bringing in an auto shop, a Camden County College auto instructor. So that's pretty phenomenal. But there was a will to do that. We still don't have a librarian at Woodrow Wilson High School, and I know what the standard line is the principal's responsibility to ask for it if he's going to do a teacher or a librarian. But I want you to do this. I want you to have the will, because you're the superintendent. You have the ability to be able to make that choice. You can separate out, and you can make an executive order. You do have the power to do that, and the board will support you because they want us to have a librarian as well. I know they do. They're education advocates, so I know they do. In terms of the conversion, the Camden High upgrade, you're bringing in BRIM and you're bringing in Big Picture Learning Center. How about this as a concept? Name it Camden High. You don't really need those two entities anymore. They were separated or segregated out of the regular public school anyway, so why not just incorporate them back into Camden High where they belong and call it Camden High? The High, right? And I'm a Wilson graduate, but I believe that will also save money. Think about it. Think about it. You are going to upgrade the building. The technology is supposed to be great. You actually will have everything that you need right in that new upgraded building. And I know that it has to be part of a conversation. You are intelligent, learned people. There's no way you haven't discussed that on some level. I assume that you have. However, that would be a great opportunity for Camden students to again go and get what we've always had in this district. Somebody created a narrative to make some parents think that we don't have it, but it's always been here, and you heard it in those young people. It's always been, it never left. You just changed the dynamic, the paradigm. So I just want you to consider those options, and I hope that you will do so. Again, Happy New Year to you. God bless you, and I hope that Woodrow Wilson gets considered for some upgrades as well. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Next speaker, Sarah Jocelyn.
On the library update and auto body, the work that's happening
I just wanted to remind everyone that we're coming up to National Freedom Day, February 1st, 13th Amendment signed by Abraham Lincoln. And it says that We won't have slavery except, of course, if you've committed a crime that you've been found guilty of, then you can have the forced duty. I want to comment positively about Cooper's Point program to collaborate with the Department of Corrections to give youth an opportunity to see what choice is, a reality check as part of your youth violence and gang abatement. I think that's an excellent program. I would like to see that done with other 6th to 8th graders. We're coming up here, I see on Resolution 8, there's a grant that's being submitted for 15 students, if the grant is allowed, to become future community leaders. I also applaud that. I'm hoping that those students will come from all of the schools. I see that you're upgrading Woodrow Wilson High School's library. There's a redesign. This is on page 62, where you're going to take and have a technology space and a presentation for over 100 students in this area. I would like to know what is happening with the books. How much of that space will be remaining as a place for books? If you're getting rid of books, what is happening with that? I'm very excited that you're doing this library design. I think it's important, as was the previous speaker mentioned, to have a librarian media specialist that would help with this area. I think that would be an excellent thing, and I'm hoping that the board will support that. I noted in my sign-in that I wanted to speak to the issue of gender equity. You may have noticed there were a few women that might have been watching, along with some men. This is part of the he for she. We really need to have gender equity, which is supported by both men and women. I see that that several of the schools are promoting Women's History Month, and I think that's something that is very important, that both the all young people be familiar with women's history and the contribution that women have made to this country. I had the opportunity to march in Alice's March in Philadelphia, which was last Thursday. This was in honor of Alice Paul, the New Jersey young woman who was quite radical and led the march at the first inauguration of Woodrow Wilson. You may remember also that Alice Paul was the one that had women chain themselves to the fence at the White House. A little bit radical. It made the point. They got the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Tyann Hogbert. Tyann? I'm sorry, Tayari?
First, let me say Happy New Year's to all y'all. And I just came back from the march on Washington, the Women's March. And I want to say this. I worked in early childhood. I'm 62. So I worked in early childhood 19 years at BPUM in the Montessori daycare. And I was under the direction of Poppy Sharp. And I had Miss Martha Wilson's children. And I'm gonna say this. If you can't believe your eyes, you can't believe nothing. You saw these children at Forest Hill. I'm a grandmother. I have 3 grandchildren at Forest Hill, 1 at ECDC, and 2 at Hatch. Okay? I walk my grandchildren to school every day. If I don't walk them, I'm riding. My thing is this. I have 1 grandchild that graduated from Forest Hill, and you took the 6th and 7th and 8th graders out because you said it was too wild, it was too congested, wasn't no lockers. Then I built this playground at Hatch. Got up 7 o'clock in the morning. I have lupus, diverticulitis, and Crohn's disease. But I'm out there building a playground. Now you move Parkside children to Forest Hill. Now you want to move Forest Hill children and Parkside children back to Hatch. Our children are not cattle. They're not heard. They are human beings. And let me tell you this, when you keep moving children back and forth, that messes with their education. They don't want to do stuff. You can't even control the kids at Camden High when they're out there fighting every day. Let's not have a crossing guard across our children across the street. Now, what I'm saying to you, and I'm not being mean, I'm just saying have a heart. Think, use your mind, use your ears, listen, be patient. Listen to these children. You should have had these children on the planning committee for what y'all was going to do with Camden High. They using better intelligence than what y'all using. My thing is this. It's going to be too congested. It's too many gangs. It's too many bloodsheds. I lost a child to gun violence. Enough is enough. Yes, we can. Yes, we will. And yes, we did. And we're going to prove that this is not going to work. It's not feasible. So I want y'all to think about this real good, real hard. Look at these children, because I don't want to see these children in a coffin. I don't want to go visit them in prison. And I want to see them march down the aisle at Camden High. Thank you.
Next speaker, Ronsha Dickerson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronsha Dickerson, Parkside resident, alumni of Camden High School, class of 1995, the best class ever. Everybody can calm down. So I came here for a number of reasons, but I've got to start on the first reason. My biggest reason is the Parkside schools, but I had to start somewhere where we don't want to talk about. I want to talk about education, racism, and harassment. Inside the classrooms of Camden Public Schools, our students are being harassed. This has been going on long before this administration, and it is the administration's responsibility to investigate how extreme this matter is. The incident that happened at H.P. Wilson was just an example of racism and harassment, but there are accounts of testimonies from students of how much they are being harassed, and racist statements are being made to them daily. Urban community survival kits are these. We teach our children as parents and as educators to keep yourself out of gangs, stay away from drugs, don't get pregnant, do the things that keep you safe and surviving in your community. But in the suburban communities, their survival kit is, if you're uncomfortable, speak up, or write it down, or write a letter. Tell your parents that man in meeting, your voice is important. Civil disobedience is your constitutional right. It's a very great parallel difference in how we train our children in urban communities to speak up and when they feel neglected or uncomfortable compared to how they feel in urban communities. We have to agree that there is understanding that black and brown children are tougher. You can say whatever you want to say to black and brown children, and they'll just bounce back because of the condition that we live in or because of our past through slavery. But that's not true. Solutions are right now to give our students the freedom to see more black teachers leading them in school district. We need to recruit more HBCUs and roll out the red carpet for growing our teachers that reflect the clientele that it serves, and I think that's very important. Number two is the intimidating of teachers in the school districts. There are a lot of teachers in the school district that care enough to empower our children to voice their concerns. This admin has laid off too many great educators, and now that all the schools are dismantled, we are left with crumbs of what great educators look like. It is unjustifiable why teachers feel like they have no voice in this war. A person's livelihood or contract should not be investigated based on their support to stand up and support students. This administration highlights educators for making the data look good, but I have not yet seen an educator highlighted for teaching civil rights, human rights, and social justice inside their classroom. This administration is well aware of the races that America we live in is going through. Consider this, that maybe the classrooms that the educators are teaching the students these great things in social justice and life skills are make them want to come to school, these students, and also want them to excel. And this is the classes where the data is growing at. That's the reason why they're coming, because you have the teachers who are speaking about social justice, encouraging them to do the right thing. Solution is forget about these roundtables, put civic education back in the curriculum. We are doing a disservice to our youth if we are not teaching them daily about the racist world that we live in. My third thing is Parkside schools, ECDC, Forest Hill, Big Picture, and Camden High School. I was one of the parents that was very supportive in switching the schools around to give our K through 5th kids and our 6th to 8th kids an opportunity to be breaded. I know I'm over. I'm almost done. This is the highest level of harassment and intimidation and bullying I've ever seen, I swear. Political leadership makes the announcement about Camden High. I'm almost done. Camden political leadership conducts a series of meetings to show a unified front. Then Camden political leadership selects a committee to make decisions about the community on our behalf. I'm almost done. I apologize for going over. There is no justice in this process. It should have been discussed with the school's administration and staffs first, and then the parents and students should have been a part of that option, right? This is not a well thought out plan. If I can be very clear, it's very selfish. It looks like you're asking babies to give up their seat for older kids to feel comfortable because they can't play nice together. Just because Big Picture and Camden High can't play nice together does not mean the baby should be uprooted and taken out of their space. It's unfair. It's like, we want, one thing, I'm so sorry I'm going over, please don't favor me, I have to get off this microphone. As a mother and as parents, we try to keep our children in consistent places. We try to keep our children in the same home, the same schools, the same thing over and over again. That creates consistency. When I think about the how many special needs children are in Forest Hill School, and you're just going to dismantle their whole concept. These children have been used to being in a space for so long, and every day the same thing. If we uproot them again and move them to a new location, it's going to create a whole kind of crazy inside their mind. And we have to consider that the school is not really conducive for it. You can make it conducive, but it's not really, because these babies, again, will be able to be looked upon as we don't matter. Again, the dirty glass and clean glass. They're lifting a charter school on Hatton. If I was a parent, I would go for the charter, because public school looks like it has no control. We look out of control. Every year is someone moving here, someone moving there, move a kid down here, move a school over here. Principals are fighting. It's ridiculous. So the last thing I want to say, and I appreciate the extra minute, I just want to say this last thing in all due respect, solutions. I have a couple solutions. I don't know why my pages ain't turned today. Have the hand-selected committee hold a meeting, community meeting, to discuss the options. Instead of just rolling out the options before you make a big announcement, have one community meeting and see if the people agree with what you're talking about. The other thing, from this day forward, have enough respect to talk to the students first. Go to the students and ask them how they feel, and then talk to those educators and those principals also, because that's their house. Get that feedback before you make a big announcement. It's important that we have to always know as a community that if we don't start to speak up and be rooted in the self-determination, this will continue to go on. It may not be a reflection of all of you, but it feels that way. And the last thing is, if we're silent, that means we accept it. I generally don't get up here and say anything, because we can have a conversation, sidebar, or in a meeting. However, there's a lot of parents who don't know about what's going on in this community, and I think it's injustice. It's not fair, and it's the high levels of learned racism, environmental racism, and institutional racism going on inside the city that we are looking beyond. And our people need to be educated and informed on what's going on, and we deserve that. We need to see true democracy in the city and not see political figures hand us our lessons. Give it to us. Take this. If you continue to put superintendents, mayors, and city council members and board members in front of a community that does not have, that feels oppressed, you're never going to get feedback. It's never going to work. So I have solutions, I have suggestions, and I'm a little upset, but I think that we can come to a remedy. And I hope that you heard what the children said first. That was not created by Mrs. Dickerson. That was from them and them only. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Fahim Leah.
Good evening, Superintendent, board members.
Good evening.
I'll just take Fahim Lee, Woodrow Wilson graduate, Parkside resident, grassroots activist, community activist, and I stand before you today as a disappointed father in the suggestion that you're making. You witnessed the kids that came up before. These kids are a product of Forest Hill School. And Sister Ransha mentioned it very well. These kids are the result of being grounded and being rooted, being in the school consistently with teachers and people who care for them. And now we're talking about uprooting them. And I just want to make a quick analogy to gardening. If you know about planting trees, right? If you maintain a garden and you plant trees, you don't uproot the trees. You don't uproot the seeds that you plant. You nurture them, you develop them, you grow them, because we're talking about progress down the line. 20 years later, we want these kids to come back and continue, but we're uprooting them. You know, I had a daughter at Hatt School. She was valedictorian class of 2015. I had a son who had to go through this adjustment. He's in 7th grade now. He had a chance to be an 8th grader, be a big man on campus for a middle school. Now Big Picture Learning Academy came in and killed that experience for him. I had a son that I had to put in Forest Hill who was at Big Picture the year before. Now we're talking about putting them back in Big Picture Learning Academy. All of this uprootedness is going to damage our kids. And this is Camden. This ain't just Camden, this is Soup City. This is CMD. Our kids that we have out here, the big kids, they can adjust. They can adjust. Because we're talking about preparing them for college in the future and being professionals, sending them off to places where they have to meet different people, embrace different cultures. We can't give them that adjustment now. Give them a little reality of what it's like to live and meet different people, go through different challenges, but we want to uproot our seeds. What are we doing? What are we doing? We can't take a chance on uprooting our kids. These are future board members, future superintendents, future mayors, future council members. And we're just telling them, your groundedness don't mean anything. Your neighborhood doesn't mean anything. We're just going to do what we want to do. Don't uproot our kids. Let them stay at Forest Hill and give a fourth option. We can use the Riggs Center or whatever we got to use. But those high school kids, they can adjust, and we need to train them a little better anyway. Because you know what's happening? When we're doing all of this stuff and it has all this political attachments to it, our kids grow up and they end up being these trees that are chopped down in the street. A growing disinterest in education because of all of this foolishness. You know, our kids are growing, they don't even want to go to school now. And look at this city. It's a history of political corruption, a history of corruption in the educational system. Now our kids, they opt to be in the streets and gangs and stuff like this. This is what we need to stop. But if we don't take care of these seeds, what do we got? Done.
Thank you, Brother Racine.
Next speaker, Benita Farmer. Benita Farmer. Next speaker, is it Scott? Oh, Scott Shanklin.
He already spoke.
Next speaker, Janelle McCray. Janelle McCray. Oh, there she is.
Good evening to all.
Good evening.
I'm here on behalf of the students of Camden High School. First and foremost, let me first say that as an educator, it is my job to help build a well-rounded child. That is my primary focus, is to prepare them to go out into the world and be productive citizens. So it's kind of disheartening when you have students come back and tell you that those people in leadership are questioning them and they feel intimidated by answering questions because it might put their teacher in an awkward position. So to all those who are asking questions about me to my students, please stop. If you have a question that you would like to ask me, I am at work most of the time. I am at work from 8 o'clock in the morning and more than likely well past 3:30 in the afternoon. And I'm there on a daily basis, and my students and my staff and the community members can attest to that. But the students have come to me with some concerns because they feel as though their voices are not being heard. Student representatives' concerns are being halted before they can come into the public session and say what they want to say because they are being answered with, "We're looking into that matter, we're working on it, or we'll let you know and get back to you later." Therefore, the public is not being informed about the issues that are concerning the students about their school. Students are still upset about the segregation of the school and the unequal treatment of students, one factor being the different quality of lunches that are being provided, an issue that has not been resolved since we first discussed it at the beginning of the school year, as well as the more recent activity which happened today during the two separate meetings of
schools for students to talk about the change that is coming. If it is Camden High School, all students, main building, D building, complex, whatever you want to call it, the student body should be able to meet without being segregated. If speaking in transparency with students from the committees that have been formed, they stated that they are still uncomfortable with moving to Forest Hill, and they feel as though their concerns have not been addressed or they have been overshadowed during the conversation. Students were not provided with a microphone during meetings at the school, and they feel as though when they asked for one that it was disregarded and that the superintendent did not answer their questions fully. Students are still uncomfortable with the many visitors that are coming through the building, surveying the schools during the school hours, and the drilling and other activities that are taking place during instructional time. And lastly, the student government leadership is still concerned that they have yet to be asked to be part of any committee about their perspectives about the new Camden High transition. No student leader is represented on any of the committees, only 3 students on the committees, 1 student per committee, and none of them come from the Student Government Association. These are the concerns that have come to me from the students. Some of them would like to be here, but due to their lifestyle and their ability, they cannot make it here this evening. But they did ask me to come and speak on their behalf, so you have been addressed.
Thank you, Janelle.
Next speaker, Brian Morton.
Good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Brian Morton. I live at 113 State Street, Camden, New Jersey. Originally, I had put down that I wanted to speak on the state of the schools, and in particular, the need around expanding access for early childhood seats. But after listening tonight, in particular to the young people from Forest Hill, my mind is actually blown in a number of ways. But to refocus it back, the reason I wanted to speak about early childhood is because it's crucial to invest and expand access into the options and into the number of seats available to families. And no more is that articulated than Forest Hill, which sits right next to ECDC. So you can see the chain, that comes out of that area. When looking at options for families with regards to early childhood access, the options are limited. And even when meeting with families at ECDC, they have about 260 pre-K students, but they only are able to offer somewhere around 70 kindergarten seats. So the pipeline that they're building up with regards to pre-K students all of a sudden shrinks in the actual number of students that can stay in the building come their kindergarten year. And so then, those families are left to now seek and scramble for other options for their kids. And it's in that spirit, sort of that scramble, that I wanted to speak tonight. We have to, as a district, I believe, begin to look at our strengths, and the things that we do well. And I know we do early childhood education really well in this district, and begin to maximize those opportunities to replicate those programs so that we can see the type of increases and growths, in a wider path of students that we see concentrated, and particularly in ECDC. Ms. Ocasio spoke earlier about land that sits in North Camden that was originally assembled behind Cooper's Point for the new early childhood center. And there were pictures made up, there were community meetings had in North Camden about what that would look like, and then it stalled out. So the land still sits there, 2 vacant lots. And we wanted to, make mention of that and remind you that there are some assets in the district that may not be currently being utilized or being looked at that could add to our ability to provide access to high quality seats, especially for our youngest students. So that's really what I wanted to talk about tonight is us being able to expand access, particularly for our youngest students. And I really wanted to give a shout out and a kudo to the articulation and being able to stay on message of our young people. So if you're still listening, Forest Hill, you've definitely left an impression this evening, and your students have been heard. So thank you, and thank you.
Thank you,
Next
Mr. Morton.
speaker, Richard Serrano.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Serrano, and I was from Parents Brigade Camden School. I'm an advocacy leader, and with Parents Brigade Camden School. Excuse me. Today I've been has some bad news, but I'm here today. Well, my concern right now is we're supporting right now. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
So, right now, our main focus right now is we're doing data entry, and we're having trouble with like parents are not like meeting with like they want to like come out and like and actually participate in these meetings, but you know they're having trouble because you know of like their work and their schedule. So right now we're reaching out with the teams and following up with data entry as part of my role. I make calls to families to share important information deadlines and invite teams and to attend meetings like this one tonight. And as we speak with families, and the number one barrier is that they can't make it, and it's a shame because it's like this is important to actually come to these meetings, and a lot of these kids and a lot of these parents have like really good like ideas, and like we would like to actually bring these ideas into play, and it would be nice to actually see Camden be Camden once again. I have some suggestions with like setting up like online sign-ups and set up slots with families, adding like call options for families with online setups, and that's one of my suggestions. And the second one would be allowing like letters to be submitted and read against with set numbers, acceptance each month, like you know, sending out letters. That way we could like be more involved in contact with families and get them more involved with meetings and boards, and like you could come like I don't know, because like sometimes like Tuesdays will be only like meetings, and sometimes you know they be exhausted from working, and kids would be exhausted from like learning, and if there's a way we could like do something like on a weekend or meet up with parents, and another one like weekend meetings or twice or once a year or something. And I understand that you know this is like a volunteer committee, and I know your time is precious, and I know everybody wants to go home with their family, eat dinner, and do what they gotta do and stuff like that. Your time is precious, and we need your leadership and encouragement, and it's greater. So please consider recommendation and present it as they provided an opportunity for more parents to come to be more involved in these meetings. And I would really like love to actually see our community be like one. And I'm saying one, like we could like talk with our kids and barbecues in the weekends and discuss, and I mean I'm saying like be like a family. Like I know we're not like all related by blood or nothing, but it would be nice to actually like walk down the street and actually feel like you're at home without actually being at home. Like, and with that being said, like I just want everybody to have a good night, And thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sean Miles.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year's to everybody.
Thank you.
My name is Sean Miles, and I'm a proud parent for Great Camden Schools. My oldest son attended Camden High School. When we was looking for a high school, there was no only choice but my old school, Camden High. His mom went there too, so his whole family went there. And my passion for Camden High run deep, real deep. And even though I haven't attended that school in over 2 decades, my time there, experience that I share with my friends, it helped me make my way in this world. Feel confident of my place in it. And since of that place is crucial for self-growth and self-esteem with which we hold ourselves, and this is especially true with our young people and young men and women. I have heard the debate about Camden High School, the need to rebuild. I have heard the debate to do nothing and cries to stay the same. And as a proud parent who never wanted the same things I had for my children, my goal was to always provide better to help him become more than my generation allowed me to be. So that his children and his children could always be moving forward, the dreams that become stagnant by it. So tonight I just beg, I know the school, Camden High, needs to rebuild, but doing the way everybody could be happy, make everybody happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Kelly Francis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board members, Superintendent. I'm going to use my time tonight to extend an invitation to the students in the Camden City School District, and especially, specifically, students in grades 9 to 12. The Camden County branch of the NAACP, we are now embarking on our 14th year of our AXO program. That's academic, cultural, technological, scientific, Olympics. We've sponsored the program for the past 13 years. This is our 14th year. We're currently recruiting students grades 9 to 12. They're eligible to participate. There are 31 categories that they can participate in. All of the STEM subjects, sciences, humanities, performing arts, technology, computer science, entrepreneurship, and also, well, we don't have a culinary program, but that's the 31st category because we don't have a 4-star hotel in the city of Camden that could sponsor the program. But all the other 30 categories are available for students grades 9 to 12 to participate in. Now, this year, Mr. Arthur Taylor, even though he is no longer an employee of the Camden City School District, he now is working in Pleasantville, but he will still chair our AXO program for the 2017 year. Also assisting him will be Mrs. Benita Farmer from Creative Arts High School, and also a parent, Mrs. Poole, whose daughter was a participant last year, and she will be participating this year. So any of those folks can be contacted. Ms. Farmer is a teacher here at Creative Arts. You can contact her here. You can contact me, Camden County Branch in NAACP. My phone number is 856-964-6705. Contact me and I will send you the information to an application form to sign up. A student can select from participate in up to 3 categories during a competition year. They can compete in only 1 or 2 or 3 if they so desire. So the deadline for applying to participate in this year's program is February 10th. So hopefully they will be contacting either myself, Branch, or Ms. Farmer or Mr. Taylor to sign up. The competitions this year will be, I believe, normally, previous years they've been in Newark, but I think we're going to be at a different location for the state competitions. Last year we had 2 national winners in Cincinnati, Ohio, from the city of Camden. They moved on, and we had about 14 state medalists last year. So there's a lot of opportunity for students to get compete for scholarships. All of the national winners get laptop computers. So the invitation is open now up until February 10th, when that's the deadline for applying. But I will be addressing in future weeks and months the real reason behind the Camden High plan. I've already expressed my feelings about it in the media and also in the committees. But I will be addressing the real reason, the political reasons behind this Camden High plan. It has nothing to do with education or the city of Camden. It's all political, and I will be educating the public about the real reasons behind the Camden High plan. Thank you.
Amir Khan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You know, I'm hearing tonight so many different feelings about the demolition of Camden High School. And I'm hearing, you know, one that's great, knock it down, new school, school of the 21st century. So one kind of people. There's another group that says, don't you dare touch the school, it belongs to us. The castle is the icon, it's what the Empire State Building is to New York. Then you hear the other group that says, listen, well, do a compromise, keep the facade, you know, renovate the school. We understand it definitely needs renovation. But I think the biggest concern I'm hearing is that there's no data to back things up. And that's what a feasibility study does. You know, Superintendent, I'm glad you responded back. You mentioned last month that you would have the feasibility study prior to this board meeting. And the superintendent did respond back 2 different emails, and it was held up still by the SDA. I did place 2 calls to Charlie, the head of the SDA. Obviously, still no response back concerning the feasibility study. But I can tell you this, there's not a person in this room, there's not a person watching or at that table that would want to go to a doctor, get ready for major surgery, and not look at the X-ray or the MRI. A feasibility study to new construction is what an X-ray or MRI is to a major surgery. It's interesting because here's the definition of a feasibility study. A feasibility study is analysis of how successfully a project can be completed, accounting for factors that affect in such things as economics, technology, legal, scheduling factors, to name a few. Project managers use feasibility studies to determine potential positive and negative outcomes of a project before investing considerable amount of time and money into it. In October, we asked for a feasibility study. It was said it will be the following month. Then November, then December, January, and now we're at the point of going into February. Still no feasibility study. So the question is, how do you make a determination? And listen, I'm not talking on behalf of knock the thing down. I'm not talking on saving it. I'm not talking on behalf of remodifying it. I'm just talking about as a taxpayer. In other words, a feasibility study is paid for by the taxpayers. Let me go a little further. I'll point this way, taxpayers. Every one of you board members should also be on my side if you're a taxpayer here in Camden, and we all are taxpayers one way or another. The problem is, this is what causes so much distrust with the residents of Camden, to think that there's always a backroom deal. Here's what your statute says, statute NJAC 6A:26-3. A portion of it reads, whenever a school district initiates a school facilities project for new construction in lieu of rehabilitation, the school district must submit a feasibility study as part of the school facilities project application supporting its determination that it would be more feasible to replace rather than rehabilitate the school facility because of health and safety or efficiency reasons. You very possibly could show in a feasibility study, which, by the way, every taxpayer has a right to see because our taxpayers, we paid for it. But my understanding is the board members didn't even see a feasibility study. So if the SDA did not even give a feasibility study to the board members, the advisory board, or the superintendent, how can you go along with and make an educated decision? And whether they were told to or not is irrelevant. I'm just saying, as taxpayers, we all have a right to that. We all have a right to it. And it's because of that what makes people think that there's always some backroom deal. It causes this lack of trust. It causes us, when we go to Camden High for a meeting and we're expecting to be heard, but we hear that there's already going to be an SDA meeting next week, and that SDA meeting is already scheduled, and it's already saying by the Charlie, the head, saying that it's going to be approved next week. Then when we drive up to the SDA meeting in Trenton, and while we're talking, we get word that Governor Christie is already coming down to Camden High School to have a press conference to say that they approved it before the vote even took place. This breeds lack of trust. And then when you ask for a feasibility study for 4-5 months, and you don't get, because I'm gonna tell you right now, to the kids, to the residents, if you have a feasibility study, you're showing documented, you're showing analytics, you're showing that, listen, this is the documentation here. Why should we knock down? One of three things, and I'll close. Either one, they never had a feasibility study. Number two, they had one and they're now modifying it, which, by the way, if they are doing that, that's illegal. Or if they are modifying it, we have every right to see the original version as well. Or three, they did have a feasibility study, and they're saying, well, you know what, we don't give a flying flip of what the residents say. At this point, we're asking that the board, the superintendent, put pressure. If the answer lies back on the SDA, put the pressure on them. Let them know. We talked to a person high up in environmental today, and they said we have every right to put an injunction and stop everything if a feasibility study is not produced right away. The U.S. Constitution, the very supreme law of the land, the Constitution, the very foundation of the Constitution is representative democracy. We pray that we have representative democracy with you today. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Javier.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I have to get to another board meeting. Superintendent, I hope I get the answer later on, but I'm sure they'll give the answer after I leave. Thank you very much.
Javier.
$50 million is enough. We should spend 133 and do a more significant.
Next speaker,
Okay.
Robert Farmer.
All it says is that the building's in such bad shape that we need to build a new building. It just says it in detail.
Okay.
I didn't say anything.
I'd like to say Happy New Year's to the board. I want to start off with, I hear a lot of negative things in here, but I'm going to start off with a couple of good things. I'm start off with security. We, the association, would like to thank the board for finally passing the uniforms, getting the security guards the uniforms. I know that was something that we started back in October, and you finally, passed. It got the uniforms out the way. The officers are, I think they're very appreciative of that. Another thing with security is I was at Camden High today, and a few of the security officers told me about cameras that are not working in the D building. That's where we had an incident, I believe, last week. The cameras wasn't working, and the officer was placed in some, he he basically was placed in it wasn't there for the cameras to see what really happened. So, if we can get that working, that'll be fine. Also, with security, there's a compensation issue. They were getting paid for overtime. With regular time, they was getting paid for overtime. They started back in September getting paid, and all of a sudden it was stopped. With something, I have to look at it, or I'll be requesting. There's something in the board's regulations that say that the workers have to be there physically at work. That was the first time I ever heard that. We are talking to Ms. Nilsson about that. So that's something, Superintendent, I'll ask you to look into that. Let's talk about Camden High once again with Camelot. Camelot, the staff, I met with them today, and they stated that they were never informed or had a conversation about where they're going. They were, they was very, pointed about that, said that, they wish that the administration did come talk to them about where they're going to be. So if you can have that done, we would appreciate that. I also talked about evaluations of the support staff, especially the paras. Officially, I'm asking the superintendent, as I did yesterday, can we look at having this first year of evaluation for the paraprofessionals and the support staff as a trial year, as the teachers did? They got a trial year to go through the process. All the kinks was worked out, and an evaluation process moved forward. There's also, I had an opportunity to visit Cooper's Point, and the principal and the staff over there needs intervention from downtown. What I seen was really, really out of control over in one of the buildings. I'm not going to put the principal on call. I'm not going to put the teachers on call. I'm not going to even put the students on call. Just saying that they need support over there at Cooper's Point. So if we can, manage to get some support over there to them, I think that'll be helpful as well. And one more thing. Where is it at? With early childhood, it seems like every year we have a problem with our paras serving breakfast and lunch and not getting paid for their services. I just want to, I'm basically going to put it out there. Airmark is a multi-million-dollar company. They're taking advantage of our workers, and the board is allowing it, because this goes on every year. This is going on for 4 years. We have to fight for them to get paid, and they don't get paid at the rate that they should get paid. It's clear in our contract that the stipend for paras is $17.35 an hour. They're getting paid $8 and I believe 50 cents. This is every year, and this has to stop. This has to stop. Pay our workers for what they do. Pay them for what they do. You would not want not to get paid for what you do. They do a very important job with our young people, and our young people respect that. So, every year I had the same battle. We're going to have to grieve this as well. I have tried to work it out. I have tried to come up with a remedy, but as of today, there's no remedy. So please, let's try to treat our paras, our support staff, with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Benson.
Thank you. Ranchi, somewhere I read, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? Before you guys go to sleep and you lay your head on the pillow tonight, you might want to put that in your head. Because what I want to explain to these pretty young babies that came over and spoke so eloquently about is the fact that we're dealing with a situation of who do they represent? As Amir alluded to, the foundation of a democracy is consent of the governed. Whose consent do they have? I listened to 20 people stand up. Not one consented to the foolishness that they are postulating. So who do they represent? From their own admission, they represent Chris Christie, someone who did not have regard for the commuters going into New York. Do you really think they have regard for the residents of Camden City? Babies, they're not listening to you. The deal has been done. They represent someone else, which makes them a body that's not legitimate. You forgot the fourth option. The fourth option is we keep Camden High, we take those 8 acres in the back, we build a state-of-the-art facility with a swimming pool because our kids deserve it, and we transform this iconic building called Camden High using community labor teaching construction trades. Now you got 300-400 gentlemen and ladies that can make $50 an hour anywhere in the country. But that takes vision. But vision takes care. Care means we elect them and they're represented. Who do you represent? Don't answer it. Your decisions answer it for us. Thank you.
Sean Brown.
Thank you for your patience, and good evening, everyone. I just wanted to start by telling you about the number 2 question I'm asked. The number 1 question I'm asked is, what's up with your hand? But the number 2 question I'm asked is, can you help me with a job? I have to say that I spend a decent amount of time with young people, whether they're high school students or young adults. I started a young adult leadership organization, and I talk to them on a regular basis, especially right before the election, where I got to make a video, and then after the election, because one of the surprises that we got in this presidential election, one of the lessons that we learned is that we don't listen enough to each other. That there are people that that view the world or their own country differently, and we need to listen to each other more and understand where other people are coming from. This is one of the reasons why President Trump won, sort of. And speaking of President Trump, yesterday, today, and I believe tomorrow, right before he comes to Philadelphia on Thursday, President Trump met with business CEOs from around the country and union leaders. When we think about employment, the core skills that are developed to make a person qualify for a job are developed in high school. Those skills that you learn in high school are then enhanced in either a trade program or in college for you to get the credentials that you need for employment. Now earlier, I went on Haltech's website, Subaru's website, to see what jobs are they hiring for right now. Now, Haltech's website, they actually have a section on there specifically for Camden. But when you look on there, unsurprising, the same thing is true for Subaru and the 76ers. They hire, for Haltech, they hire engineers. They hire welders, but you have to have a certain amount of experience. The 76ers, I think 15 people are in the NBA or play basketball, but the rest of the people that work there are accountants and people that are HR managers. Josh Sims from this school, earlier he said that he was proud that finally the school district offered enough classes to make students that take those classes, get good grades, get high scores in the SAT, qualify for Ivy League schools. And Miss, oh, there's a mouse right there, right behind that piano. Oh, hey, mouse, look at that. Yeah, right here, a little one, it's cute. It's right there. It was distracting, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Well, I'm not sorry, I mean, I didn't put the mouse there. Anyway.
Your time's up.
It was weird, thank you. So anyway, Miss Blackshear, I'm sure, and Miss Wilson, I'm sure remember that we had this scholarship in Camden that was for a qualifying student that was going to for the University of Pennsylvania. And Barbara Coscarelli used to bring this up a lot. And I said at that time, and it's becoming less and less true, that we don't offer the classes that are mandatory for a student to get accepted to our top schools. I think the conversation now needs to shift. And I have to say to my friends in the audience, and to people who I'm usually ideologically aligned with, that if we had the same energy on Camden High in that building, if with the energy that's been put on that with committees that the school district has done and articles that have been written and rallies and public debates, if we put that same energy on credentials, classes offered, curriculum and instruction, we have a guy in our board who works in the science field and asked a good question about technology today. We have an entrepreneur in our board. If we built those relationships to have true conversations with our young people, with our curriculum and instruction teams, with our technology people, both in the district and whether it's Comcast or Verizon, and those outside the district, we would be in a different position today. I fear that Camden High has, don't come over here, mouse. I fear that Camden High has distracted, the issue of the Camden High building has distracted us from some of the more fundamental and core issues that don't just affect Parkside or the students that go to that school, but affect thousands of people in our community. We have a whole generation of people in their 20s that went through the Camden school system that graduated unprepared for a college placement test and unprepared for most jobs of employment that pay a living wage. And there's nothing controversial about that. I see it all the time. I see it every day. So I feel that we have made a lot of improvements, as our superintendent acknowledges, but I still think that there are much deeper conversations that we have to have, because the idea of employment can't rest on tax incentives for corporations. This is where political leadership has put their energy. But the education leadership in the community has put its energy in credentials, to making sure that the classes are offered and that skills are ready. Not in a 6-week program, because that's not how you get into long-term employment, but to make sure that through high school, through college, and the other programs that we're doing what it is. And as of now, I haven't heard or seen enough of it. So I think this is something that we can all agree on and we can all put energy to fix. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
That ends public comment.
All right, I want to thank all the public commenters. I want to begin by thanking our students for speaking up today. Let me begin by acknowledging the 2 sharp students, so Cassandra and Kevin Jr. I'm not sure if they're still here, but I just want to say, I see Kevin Jr. Thank you for being here and advocating on behalf of your teacher. On that very specific issue, I want to follow up with our team and better understand the specifics and the new data that Kevin Jr. shared with us here. And so really thank you. And I see a proud Kevin Sr. and Ms. Belfort, and appreciate the entire family being here and the Sharp community representing your needs. So Forest Hill, thank you all. I really, really appreciate it. Shania, Miss Baby Dickerson, I don't know if that's the right way to address you. What was that? Tenenfiek. So I just really, really appreciate that you all took the time to write down your thoughts. I actually read most of the letters earlier today that the Forest Hill students wrote down. And it takes a lot of courage to get up there behind the microphone. And I, like everybody said, just to echo what you already heard, we were really, really blown away by your leadership and by your presence here tonight. So we're going to continue this conversation. This is not the end of the conversation. I want you to know that. And I appreciate some of the very specific concerns you raised. And I just want you to know that earlier today I met with your teachers, and we discussed those very questions and those very concerns. And so, for example, I know a number of you all mentioned that the school community rallied around moving the middle school out and just having an elementary school. And, you know, who knows what direction we go? I still think that this is still the best possible outcome given all the other challenges we have to deal with. But I just want you to know that if we do ultimately land here, the middle school will still be separate and apart from Forest Hill. I realize that it's all in the same building, but that you would have your own space, and that's what we're proposing here. And you also mentioned that there's not enough lockers in Forest Hill. And you're right now there are only about 60 lockers, but there's some space where we could add some more lockers there, again, if we end up moving in this direction. And so we're trying to be really mindful of all of those concerns. The bigger point I want to convey is, I think everyone here, and now I'm thinking about Ms. Dickerson, Mr. Lee, other parents and community members, I think we all agree that we would want Camden High to stay together, and we don't want to ask those students to go to Woodrow and to Brim and spread them apart and basically get rid of Camden High School for the next 5 years. And I think we also agree that we want the building to be in Parkside. If that's not the case, would love for people to weigh in. But I have heard consensus on those two issues. Keep the kids and staff together, keep it in Parkside. And if that's the case, let's sit down and talk through some of the solutions that you mentioned. So if a Riggs Center is an option that more family members and staff feel strongly about, we can absolutely explore that further. Our sense was that Riggs, I mean, look, there's a reason that Big Picture moved out of Riggs. It's a limited facility. It wasn't originally designed to serve students in a school. But maybe we think that a standalone space, separate and apart, in spite of those shortcomings, is the best outcome. Or maybe there's something altogether that we haven't considered. And so we're just trying to be mindful of the comprehensive needs of the Parkside students. And again, I just really, really appreciate the time you all took. And I look forward to spending some more time with you all, and I know our staff members do as well. So a couple of people here commented on early childhood seats, and I just want to quickly say, it's correct that at ECDC there are not enough kindergarten seats to match the demand there. We have had conversations over the past several months about potentially increasing the number of kindergarten classes at ECDC, and we can accomplish that by moving out some of the administrative staff members who are there and bringing our central office together. It's not to say that is a final decision by any means, but potentially that helps alleviate some of the concerns that we're hearing, and would certainly want to hear from the ECDC community that it would make sense to add the kindergarten classes. As far as building a new building in North Camden near Cooper's Point, I think we should just sit down with the parents who raised that concern specifically from PGCS and kind of hear it out. Building a new building it always is complex and certainly expensive, so just want to make sure we find some time to talk through that in some more detail. Mr. Waters and at least one other person, I believe Ms. Jocelyn, commented about the library Woodrow Wilson. So I just wanted to ask Ms. McCombs to quickly comment both on that and auto body. That is one of our priorities over there.
So for Mr. Waters and Ms. Jocelyn, specifically about the project, first, before I go there, I want to say that next month we're already poised to give a library update in our board meeting, so that is something we're already planning to do. So to address some of the concerns that have been shared recently and some of the things that we've put into place to address those needs, those valid and very real concerns about making sure that our students have access to library materials, access to being able to learn library skills. So that update is coming in the next board meeting. But specifically regarding Woodrow Wilson High School, yes, we are finalizing a project there for overhauling the library at Woodrow Wilson, converting it into a media technology center. At this point, there were some questions about where where books would be located versus the technology equipment. That is something that's being still worked out with our operations team and also the school leadership at Woodrow Wilson, but we are moving closer to the final stages of that project being completed. One of the other things that will be shared next month in fuller detail is something that is a huge bright spot in this area. Working with Ms. Almatrian School-Based Youth Services, they have been able to secure a grant, the Project Here 3 grant, and this grant will allow for a part-time librarian who could be housed at Woodrow Wilson and Camden High School on a part-time basis, and also other staff members who would serve as media supports for teachers in guiding instruction in media technology in libraries. So this is a very significant grant. We're in the process of getting all of those pieces approved, and once we have that in place, we look forward to moving that on. But again, there will be a full, detailed update at next month's board meeting, and I'm happy to stay around to answer any other questions in that area.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. McCombs. The suggestion was also raised that BRIM and Big Picture Learning Academy, when they move into Camden High School, to basically do away with those school models and to make it one large high school. I think that's a longer conversation. My quick reaction there is those two schools were established long before my appointment in this administration, and I believe have very strong support from their local school communities. Our approach here has been, we would consider the new building that would house both BRIM and Big Picture to be Camden High School, but that those are distinct academies, if you will, smaller learning communities within Camden High School. To the extent there's a bigger community push to say, let's make one big comprehensive high school, certainly we'll hear it out, but my strong sense is that those families feel strongly about each respective model there and the themes they have, and we would want to be very respectful of that. Ms. McCray commented about student concerns at Camden High School during the assembly, and some students still having ongoing questions and their concerns not being addressed. And so I'm not sure if she's still in the room. My short answer is I spent now 2 different occasions where we put the entire school into the auditorium. We broke it up into 2 sessions just because of bell schedules and size of the audience. And every last student spent time with me, the principals, our staff, and we opened it to everybody. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with the characterization of that conversation, because every last question went addressed. And some students, of course, don't feel comfortable asking a question in front of an entire audience, so I stayed afterwards and talked to students one-on-one. And I know, Ms. Dickerson, you've been very clear about engaging students directly, and certainly I have some time for all of us here we need to be spending with the Forest Hill students, but we have very much prioritized engaging the Camden High students, who are obviously most they were the initial point of the conversation here, given the reconstruction, and we will continue to prioritize student conversations going forward. Let me close by commenting on the feasibility study, and before I do that, Mr. Farmer, I'm not sure if he's still in the room, but he left. But we took notes. We have an ongoing conversation with CEA, and we'll follow up on each of the items that were raised. On the feasibility study, I just want to back up here and remind everybody how the feasibility study fits in and where we started. So the governor about 2-3 years ago, closer to 3 years ago, made an announcement that Camden High should be renovated to the tune of $50 million. I think his exact words were at least $50 million. And like the first time we heard that news before the press conference, everyone on our team was, that's not enough. And back in 2007, there was a commitment for $107 million, and then all of a sudden that number went down to 50. And we weren't thrilled with that. And so we were pushing the powers that be in Trenton and the School Development Authority to spend more than $50 million. So then the feasibility study happened, which, by the way, we've seen working drafts, and we're waiting for the final version of it for the SDA to release publicly. It's their document. And the feasibility study went from $50 million to a new building, because that study told us what we already knew, which is the building was in such bad shape that we needed something more significant than a $50 million rehab. So I just want to remind everyone, the feasibility study isn't this big, dark secret that leads to backroom deals, but rather the very instrument that led to a $133 million investment, which, by the way, is $26 million more than what was committed in 2007. So I completely understand there's long been distrust about local and state politics, but let's be infinitely clear here. The feasibility study is benefiting us to the tune of $133 million. Once it's ready, again, it's not like we're not the technocrats, we're not architects and designers. Once that document is finalized by the SDA, we'll release it. But please know that the way it was characterized today, I completely disagree with that. And at the same time, we'll acknowledge that, the distrust is real. Let me now open it up if Ms. Wilson or any other board members would like to make any final comments. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually meant to comment on that. So, Mr. Brown, I really appreciate your commentary. A big part of my job is to meet the community where they are. And Camden High School is where they are right now. And your comments, I think, are poignant in that it's not that we're not prioritizing curriculum, and I appreciate that you acknowledge some of the improvements that Josh acknowledged. To the extent we have a greater push to sit down and dig deeper into curriculum, and Ms. Dickerson's plea for civic engagement certainly stands out in my mind. I think there's a lot of wonderful work that's happening on civic engagement that we don't probably acknowledge enough. And so I hope that message resonated with everybody, because we would love to be pushed even harder on what we're doing on curriculum instruction. The fact of the matter is, what we're getting pushed on the hardest right now is a reconstruction plan and temporary space plan. And given that's what people want to talk about, I feel like that's my responsibility to respond to it. But I certainly hope people take you up on your offer, because we would certainly love to engage in that.
Absolutely.
Any other comments?
I did. I wanted to thank the young ladies tonight that came out, ladies from Forest Hill. For the first speaker, I wanted to say, I think I speak for all of us when we say that we want you to focus on creative arts and your arts and theater, which is something I'm sure you're interested in, and that you do the best that you can do, and that you have fun while you're doing it, and to try to not stress, even though I know it's hard, because being an eldest, you always take care of your siblings, to not stress on the moves of your little sisters. And I think you guys have great support system, you have great community leaders, you have great parents that are not shy about telling us where we need to be more supportive. And I think it's safe to, if I'm not overstepping, to make a recommendation that we have sort of, Pam, like what you do with other schools. I just don't know how your specifics, but we have like a group of youth at the Forest Hill School, and we meet with them regularly to kind of see, as we're going through the changes, how they feel at the moment, what things they like to see, progressing. I went to Hatch. I graduated in 2003, and I went there for all 3 years. And I was always on one side of the building, and I never really realized that the other side was even there. And it is an awesome community, because I grew up there, and it's big. And I think you guys are going to be great there. The Big Picture Learning Academy students are really excited about being able to mentor you guys and show you guys their world, as they are, a fairly new school. Because I know that I have 3 girls, and one is in arts, the other one is going to be in some type of physical activity, I'm not sure yet, but I know that even though we're all growing up in the same house with the same morals and rules, that we have different interests. So maybe one of you guys might want to attend Big Picture Learning Academy. But I think that you guys are going to have great opportunities there. Like I said before, I think it's going to be the board's priority next year. And the years thereafter, to make sure that our community, because right now we're taking care of each other during this process, and I think that as we stick together and we care for each other in this big transition, I think we're all going to come out on top at the end. So I do want to thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. And then second to that, the early childhood education, I'm glad that you guys started the conversation about it. And also showing the VOTEC and STEM, totally agree. So looking forward to those conversations. But thank you guys, thank you ladies.
Thank you, Ms. Morton. Ms. Burley?
Good evening. I wasn't going to say anything, but I guess I have to. Being a former teacher of Forest Hill, I just think that it's not a signed, sealed, and delivered package yet, and we just need to take a look at all angles again. Minister Wasim and I, he come from high school, middle school, I'm an elementary school teacher. It's in my blood. I just think we need to really take a look at it, because I truly believe Forest Hill is a little kid's school. That's how it's made. I mean, no offense to my young sisters and brothers over here, that school is made for younger kids. I cannot see, not that I'm against it, because I'm a Woodrow Wilson graduate, not at Camden High, so you can't say that I'm trying to take up for Camden High. But I think we need to take a good, hard look at that, because that school has no windows, it's built in a circle, and I think we need to take a good, hard look and look at other options, because older kids should be able to get along better or readjust more so than the younger kids. That's just my own personal feelings. Nobody's up here beating me up about it, but it's just my feelings that we need to kind of take a hard look at what we're going to do before we do it and get more of the board, everybody involved, because it's a hard decision and you're not going to please everybody. No matter how you try, it's not a political thing. It's the thing of we got to look at what's best for our children, and the children are what's dear to me is our children. So that's it.
Appreciate that, Ms. Burley.
I have something to say.
Ms. Blackshear?
The kids really got to my heart, and what Mr. Lee said is correct. Camden High students could adjust better than them babies, and they really got to my heart. And I said, "Oh, I gotta beat up Mr. Paymont and the president now, because we need to really look at it in a different spiel now." So
absolutely, we can revisit every pro and con, and I think this is a decision that warrants that level of scrutiny. I do think we should be mindful of budget deadlines and planning deadlines and implementation deadlines, and our team will certainly weigh in on that. And I don't think we have too long, but we have some more time certainly, and I look forward to sitting down with additional community members. I will also just ask everyone to think about what tonight would have looked like if we went with Hatch, and how many number of BPLA students would have been in the audience today, and what they would have testified to in their experiences. So I think we all acknowledge that this is complicated, and not everyone's going to be happy, to use your words, Ms. Burley. So just want to push everyone there too.
Minister Wasim.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And I too was, as I say again, was totally against when our committee that I'm over, when they mentioned Forest Hill from the very, very beginning. I mean, without even thinking about it, because being in Parkside and knowing Forest Hill, that is in a circle, and all the things that you guys have said, knowing how Hatch was, but what kind of changed my idea, and as the superintendent said, this is still on the table, was the fact hearing from the school leaders and the students and their opinion. And we definitely respect the opinion, and I definitely agree with Brother Imam, what he said about it's easier to deal with older children than to uproot younger children. I think that was an impactful statement that we need to really take a look at, but hearing from the whole thing. But one suggestion that I would like to make, there's a lot of conversation tonight about the community not being involved in this conversation, but the community is involved in this conversation because they had committees, they broke it down, we had meetings, group of meetings in the communities, and in chains of commands, certain people represent certain people. What I find most of the time, not all the time, and this is not everybody, that sometimes people like getting away from the process instead of going through the process, especially when it deals with us who are here, looking like us, we like to go around. So the process is there. We have to advocate as a team and as a chain of command for those who the community chose and the superintendent and his staff chose to represent this process because we can't be all over the place. So if we can advocate with those members who are there on the committee, and this is the reason why we have committees, whether it's a business committee, a church committee, a mosque committee, we expect those people in the committees to speak for us. And if we follow those chains of command, and I too want to say that the young people were very impactful on their ideas and what they're talking about Forest Hill. And we knew that we would visit this because I said, man, living right across the street from Hatch Middle School, I said, well, they just left from there, and now they're going to ask them to come back. So we can consider those things, but the professionals, the school leaders really, really voiced the opinion of the students and hearing from the other students as well, too. So let's take all that in consideration, and as the superintendent said, this is still open for discussion.
I can say that as a student from Hatch, coming in the 7th grade, I was the first class in Camden High that was in 9th grade. So we didn't get a graduation from Hatch Junior High School. I had to go straight into high school. So I know how our class felt. It was impacted upon us because that was something we looked forward to. And then before it was time for school to close, the decision was made that we were going to be in that move. So as a student, and at that point, I was a lot older than they are today. But I also know the impact that it has on students when the change takes place. When your teacher that you like, and you like that subject, and that teacher goes out, and you think they're only going to be out for a short time on sick leave, and then they wind up not coming back, and those students are impacted upon the fact that they have a different substitute, whether it's a different substitute every day, or they have a different substitute throughout the rest of the school year. It's not the teacher that they came in with. So it does change and adjust their thoughts, their mindsets, and it does affect them. And you're correct. It does affect younger children much harder than it does those who are teenagers. So it's a situation where we're not completed with this. There will be subcommittees. It is very true. The committees that are here have been picked by the community. They're community people at 3 different tables. You have a community chair, and you have a chair from the board. So with that, I can say to you that even though I'm the chair of one of the project overview, I rely very strongly on Mr. Johnny Royal, who is my community chair, and those who are part of my committee. So with that, we are working together to unify and bring all the things together before we make a decision on this. And the children is first and foremost in our thought process. My concern was the Forest Hill, that the hallways were too narrow for high school students to be passing classes. So I did have a concern with that. The rooms are a good size, but my major concern was the hallways. But we will go with whatever the team comes up with. When I say team, I'm talking about the community as well. So there will be subcommittees that will become a part of the actual committees that we have. So it's not over. And thank you, and be patient with us as we try to work out the best that we can on behalf of your children and our students. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
At this time, I call for a motion to adjourn, and that was made by Ms. Morton.
Yes,
And second was by Ms. Blackshear. All in favor to adjourn, please say yes.
Yes.
The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.